Hierarchy can be a very useful concept when trying to control your layout in EM extraction. This concept is covered in detail in the new EM planar course. Let me give an example of it here. This again is a simple filter. Here is its layout and here is its schematic. If you click on the elements, right click, you add an extraction. This one is called Original, and there is the filter, and of course at this point you would go out and simulate it in Axiom, get the results, and update your graphs. Let's say you wanted to add a ground flood to this structure, and by that I mean a ground plane at the same level as the filter on the same layer, and of course using the concept of negative layers to cut away from the filter so you don't short it out. You could do all of that right in your schematic layout, but then you probably don't want a ground flood drawing in your schematic layout. So what you can do is use hierarchy. And the way this works, if we go to this schematic here, the subcircuit on the right was our original schematic, which is now a subcircuit. And if we look at the layout of this, you can see I've added this ground plane and two via blocks. So if we look at this in 3D, you can see what we're doing here is shorting out the ground plane at the level of the filter down to the ground plane below. The ground plane has hole cut in it around the filter using the concept of negative layers. If we go back to the schematic at this point, I could add the extraction. And when we do that, the name of the document is EM with flood. And here it is. The ports have been added, and the hole has indeed been cut, as extraction automatically subtracts negative layers from positive ones, the layer used for the ground flood. So in this simple example, hierarchy is being used to keep our ground flood separate from our main layout, making things cleaner, especially when we extract, especially when we go to create the actual layout on a PCB board. Let's go ahead and take a look at the results to see if the ground flood actually affected the filter. And we're going to be taking a look at the return loss here. First of all, we start with the measured data. Second of all, we look at the original Axiom simulation, and it agrees very well. Let's go ahead and see what the effects of the flood are with running Axiom, and you get this answer. And you can see the black curve is very different than the others. The ground flood has had a tremendous effect, which shouldn't surprise us because the ground is actually even going in between the various arms of the stone.